The biggest ROI is tracking. This is coming from a perspective of working, large scale practices, but you need to be able to know that people are working what needs to be worked every day.
Losing dental claims? It's time to get a grip on it. In each episode, we bring you real conversations with revenue leaders, billing pros, and operators who've battled claim confusion and won. Whether it's strategy, workflows, or tools that actually work, we are here to help you streamline your billing, recover lost revenue, and lead a high-performing team. Let's dive right in and get a grip on it.
Hey everybody, this is the inauguration, the first ever Agrippon podcast. My name is Shane Billings. This is my brother, Brad Billings. Together we make
The dental billings.
So let me introduce you, Brad. You have a lot of experience in the DSO space. You've done a lot of good things from running the business side of the house.
Sure.
I love hearing the stories that you have about how you've taken dental organizations and really transformed them, in particular, how you increase their revenue with very little effort, and you look good while doing it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your background is?
So I met you the day I was born. I'd assume, I don't know if you were there or not, but I assume it was soon thereafter, if not the day of. So the interesting parts of my career, I've been in performance industries my whole life, and you know all this, but I will tell the fans, the Agrippon fan base. I was in the performance industry. I was in sales for probably the last 15 years before I got into dental. I worked for a large, we'll say, a communication conglomerate. I ran the southern half of the U.S. for them. I ran a sales team. So I was in sales for 15 years. It was a high performance industry and had a whole lot of analytics, and it was all at our fingertips, meaning we could find out any analytics we needed to do at any time. And then I got recruited to move over to a large dental support organization. We won't say which one, just to keep this agnostic, but they had a really strong dental training program. I knew nothing about dentistry at all. And I learned, everything there was to know about dentistry. And I got yelled at a whole lot about the AR in my offices that I supported. And it was kind of trial by fire, like I was supposed to get 4 months of training. And I think I got put into a position after about a month and a half because they needed somebody. And I had 7 offices that I supported out of the gates.
Yeah. So tell me, what were you able to do? Like, how are you? I want to hear the success stories. Tell me about those good times.
That one was interesting. Every single office that I supported was in the black. They were, or the red. I guess the red is the right term.
The red is bad, black is good.
Red is bad, yeah. So they were not making money. I think overall out of the 7, if I was running my own profit and loss statement, I was losing about 15% a month. 15%
Wow.
negative. So the
Hey,
revenue
that's bad. That's bad.
Pretty bad, yeah. And that, I know we're going to eventually talk about Agrippon, but they had different problems there. I mean, I walked into the first dental office I walked into, there was a dentist owner, and she was in her office in tears, and I walked in there and she quit. I was like,
wow.
I don't think you can quit. You own this place.
Like,
The first office I ran into in a leadership capacity, and I had no idea what to do. I was like, if you quit, you're going to lose all the value. She was like, there's no value here anyway. She left and never came back.
She really left.
Yeah, she really left. She quit.
Where did her ownership stake go?
Well, she did try to sell it. So the way that it worked in the company that I worked for is they would typically, there were different partnership agreements, but typically they would own 50% of the company, or the parent company would own 51% of the company, and then they would partner with doctors, dentists, and the dentist would own 49%. And then in that situation, what happened was she walked away. They just said, all right, you lose the value if you're walking away, because it's in their contract. They have to work in the business they own.
Yeah, of course. So
if
she
they
just
walked
literally
away,
walked away,
walked
lost the
away, and
49%.
49% of that specific office. And there was an associate doctor there working part time that was like 4 months out of school, which associate doctors oftentimes need mentorship and can't do complicated procedures. And the office manager had quit, I think, a month prior before I got there. So it was kind of a mess. That was just one of the many offices. There's a couple that were okay, stable, but really not great. We actually, the reason I was recruited there is because it was the entire region of, I think it was 31 offices at the time, were all pretty much losing money except for a few, like two or three. So they needed someone that could turn all that around without losing their mind. And it
So
wasn't just,
give us some highlights of some of your turnarounds. We're going to get your bona fides out there.
well, so in that one, it took me about 6 months and I went from negative 15 to positive 25% EBITDA.
Okay.
So
And
that
we'll
one
get
was,
into more detail in some of these.
yeah.
So,
So that was there. We won. So the first week we came into that region, and as a region, I think we were dead last the year before, and the following year we took first place out of that entire company for performance, and their performance was P&L based, so it was 100% profitability. So yeah, so that was that place, and then from there I went and I signed on with I wanted to move to Utah, so I moved to Utah and signed on with a really small DSO. They had 3 offices when I signed on with them. They had a really strong foundation and a really strong clinical background, but no automation, no reporting, no analytics, which I had had for the last 20 years of my career.
yeah, and I think the key there is that this is automation on the business side. In dental, especially, there's tons of automation on the production side.
Yeah, there's healthy software on the production side. Yes, like
Mm-hmm.
the ability to calculate. Yeah, I agree with you. Yes, the how to enter in treatment plans and calculate fees for patients and all of that stuff has existed for a number of years
Yeah.
decently. But there was no reporting on number of new patients they saw every day, number of total production for the day, amount collected against that production, outstanding claim. There was no analytics at all. So within the PRM, but not from a business level. So when you have multiple practices, like to dive into each individual office is an extensive workload. It takes hours and hours if you don't have a summary and know where to go. And that's what I need by
Mm-hmm.
analytics. So, and then right when I started, they bought. The owner of the company had just dropped. I think it was 3.5 million to buy 3 more practices that also weren't doing well. So just
Mm-hmm.
out of the gates, I think we were doing $450,000 a month with 6 practices, which won't really. That's you might break even on that. It'd be pretty hard. But,
Yeah. Well, what I liked when I talk to you about this kind of stuff, what I like to hear is like you are just numbers, like you're data driven, and I think that is
yeah,
something that's really
I'd
important.
like to be. Yeah, I'd like to be even more than I am. Business decisions based on feelings and thoughts oftentimes just take you in the wrong direction. So I'd like to make those decisions based on analytics. Correct.
Yeah.
The rest of the story is we took that when I left that business, we were doing $2.1 million a month with 11 practices. I
There you
created
go.
automated reporting and communication software through low code and a number of other things to help them function appropriately and be able to scale and grow. I think the last month I was there, we were 21.5% profitable. Through
Okay.
that whole journey, and really in Texas, I had met a doctor and we had kind of become friends, and he had seen all of the things that I had done and asked me to partner with him in another single startup practice with the plans to grow into a DSO. And that's where I'm at now, fighting that good fight. I have a number of other businesses, but that's kind of the main ones.
Cool.
The
So
main
my
one.
name is Shane. The main one. That's cute. So, and I have a background in software engineer, as a software engineer and development. One of the tools Brad showed me had a lot of potential, and we partnered together to make a Agrippon. He used it in his practices, and I refined it. But my background is not in dental. And so when we do this podcast, the purpose is that I ask questions from a newbie standpoint and learn, and hopefully we're able to share some things that everyone finds valuable. Okay, so I have some questions for you, Brad. Question number one, over the course of your career, like as you did all the turnarounds, what would you say would be the biggest AR lesson that you've learned for accounts receivable?
Hmm.
And it can be anything.
The short and fast lesson is you get behind on AR. There's without intentional correction, it will bury you.
Okay. So if you're saying like if you're a day behind, then you get 2 days behind, and then it just snowballs.
Yeah, and when we're talking about revenue cycle management, there's a lot of moving parts, right? Like there's the office, there's the AR submission, like how is your biller submitting the claim, and then there's what's your denial follow up, and what's the communication back and forth between those things, and how are you tracking it? But really, the point is, if you're 2 days behind and you are working slower than the AR is building up. And the simplest way to put this in AR terms for anybody listening to understand, not just people that are in the revenue cycle management field, is if I have 50 claims that I'm submitting a day because I have 50 patients that come in and I'm only submitting 25 and then I'm behind the next day 75 and I submit 25 again, then I'm behind 100 and then I submit 25 again. The point is you have to have good processes to stay up with all that. And
Yeah.
that goes the same way. So if you're getting claim denials and you get 15 claim denials in a day and you're following up on 10, then it just compounds.
Yeah, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. My background is in lean manufacturing and agile software development. We would call that like an inventory growth, where you just build up inventory and you can't tear it down.
Right. And if you don't have the analytics to show you that, then you don't even know what's happening until one day you turn around and you're like, holy crap, I've got 2,000
So
claims.
analytics, what a great topic. We're going to come back to that. What's one thing you would say is a simple fix with large dividends, like a big ROI with very simple fix?
Yeah. I think probably the biggest ROI is tracking, meaning you need to be able to know what you're, and again, this is coming from a perspective of working, large scale practices, but you need to be able to know that people are working what needs to be worked every day. And you need to be able to see
But
that.
how do you find that out? Right. What's interesting is, and you and I have talked about this, that when you have a single practice, the billing, while complex, uh, it doesn't expand like exponentially in complexity when you get more and more offices, maybe with a single billing office. And they usually handle it pretty good, that kind of thing. I mean, I
And
think that you're
because you're there every day. You're there anywhere
right.
between 8 and 10 hours a day. So even, I mean, the thing is even in a single practice, if you don't have a system now, let me take a step back. The
Okay,
reasons
take a step back.
practices don't fall into the same pitfall is because the archaic server-based practice resource management software is built to handle a single practice, meaning you can look through reports, and if you have, you know, 200 claims, 200 claims, you can scroll through and manage it independently as an office manager or maybe the biller in that office or whatever the case may be, and you just work them, and you can be fast enough even if you're working the wrong things to get to the right things, because you're there all day and any questions
And the
arise,
communication
yeah, you
flows and
just walk
everybody's
over
around
and
you.
then know the answer and you get it done, or you tell somebody to call somebody right there and they do it. And it's easy. So
Yeah.
that's why it works in a single practice. It's still, the PRM has a limited analytics and reporting that you can do in a single practice. It's, as soon as you start, it becomes very, very important to have analytics and know where to go and what to attack once you don't have that person in the office 8 hours a day.
Got it. Okay. So the quickest thing is tracking just to get data. That's what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So the
I would,
biggest thing, what's that?
well, I was going to say that it doesn't sound simple to me. It sounds actually a little difficult.
Well, so yeah, so I mean, you can make it as difficult as you'd like to make it, but the idea is, again, I talked about this initially, is if you have a large problem and you don't know what it is, you have nothing, you don't know how to fix it. If you have these claims that are being submitted and everyone's being denied because you're missing an X-ray, and then you have to go back and try to get that X-ray, and you keep doing that, right? And I do one a week or two a week, right? And I go try to get that X-ray, and then I go about my business. Maybe I get that X-ray, maybe I don't, and then those claims don't get paid, so you're just losing money. But if you have analytics that say we lost $2,000 last month on X-rays, we need to make sure we take X-rays for this procedure every time, and then we go attack it at the front end. So then we go teach our dental assistants that whenever you're doing a root canal, we need a final X-ray at the end of the root canal to make sure that we get paid through insurance. And then we train it at the beginning. And rather than chasing that back end, because before it just was a feeling like, man, it feels like we miss these X-rays a lot. Please, guys, get X-rays. Please, guys, get X-rays. Please, guys, get X-rays. I need this X-ray. I need this X-ray. I need this X-ray. But you don't have anything to say. It's a $3,000 problem. We need to make a document and start holding accountable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let me repeat back what I'm hearing, which is you can measure denial of claims and categorize them, and then use it to refine your processes. But the first thing to do is the first metric that I'm hearing is go back, look at what's denied and root cause maybe one area and quantify it in terms of dollars. So that would be an easy way to say, here's all the denials. We've got this many based on this root cause, and then go work it, then go the back.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into it, but they don't even have to be denials. If it's a problem, if it's a delay, if it's
sure.
It could be anything. And oftentimes
anything you want to choose. Yeah.
Right. And oftentimes it's super simple. Like, hey, we need to check last names on patients more diligently. Like, take a photo of their, or take a picture of their photo ID. So, and all of those things cost thousands of dollars, and every office has a different problem. Meaning, every office has
it's going to be individual.
You don't know what to attack. You don't know. Yeah. You don't know what you need to fix. So you may go fix X-rays on root canals over here, and then you go to this office, you fix X-rays on root canal, but they didn't have that problem because they were already taking X-rays on root canal. So you solved nothing, but they still have that deficit. So it's
okay. Yeah.
You gotta know what to fix in the process. So if you're not doing anything to track all those denials, you're just chasing butterflies. And there's a song about that.
Could you sing it?
Oh yeah, if you'd like it. Don't go chasing butterflies.
Right, I thought it was waterfalls.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. But you should taste butterflies. Either.
Yeah, you should. Maybe you should chase butterflies.
All right. I'm glad you came out for reals now.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's actually kind of leads naturally into one of the things, like we created Agrippon to help with that. How can Agrippon assist in that? Like if we wanted one thing to fix and it's simple, how can Agrippon help you in that? And by the way, we didn't plan this. I asked this question, but the next question
this was not planned at all. This is, and I don't even know if this is what you want me to like say to or if we need to have something to say to make Agrippon valuable. I think there's a ton of different areas.
Let's talk about
for
this
me,
one.
Just my background, everything that I've ever done for success is through analytics and process driven change and then performance management behind that process driven change. So just So yeah, I don't know what you expect the answer to be here, but let me know
I don't expect anything, but Agrippon. So
what part of a grip-on help with that specifically.
yeah. How would you use
Well,
Agrippon if you're
yeah,
starting from scratch and you come in and you're losing 15% of your revenue?
yeah.
How can you and I mean, let's be honest, like it's not a silver bullet. Like it's not going to fix everything.
No, it's
But
part of
how
the
might I use it?
part of the
What's
puzzle.
that?
It's
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
the
it's part of the
puzzle.
puzzle.
Key piece.
But
Yeah.
how would I
So
use a Groupon?
yeah, so I think, I mean, the idea behind a grip-on and what originally the intention was first communication and then to track. So I'll tell you how a grip-on came about, which was we had a spreadsheet and it was color coded and it was like red, yellow, and green based on timeline of requests given to the office, and requests were given to the office through email, and then notes were added into the spreadsheet. And one day I looked at the spreadsheet for a single office, and it was a big office. This is a $400,000 a month office, but it was like 16 pages long, and over half of them had requests that had not been answered by the office that the offsite billers needed to basically submit the claim correctly. Some of the claims hadn't even been submitted because they knew they couldn't submit them because they didn't have the right information. And some of it was as simple as, hey, you don't have a first name on this. Can you please tell me what this patient's first name is? It was just
That's
really
all.
basic misses, right? And maybe that was just the cleaning, but it's still worth, 120 bucks with all the x-rays. So like,
Right.
just to ignore it is crazy. And it just fell off because everybody's running and nobody's tracking anything. And there's a spreadsheet and some emails. And that's three different locations that you can try to talk your office managers into paying attention to the spreadsheet. And then please don't lose that email. And then when you do find the spreadsheet, you need to go find that email to then reply to them with the question that they had specifically about that entry. Not to mention that some of those entries had been answered already and repaired and were still in the spreadsheet. So you're chasing them multiple times. And so it was just this like
So
nightmare.
spreadsheets. And I've also talked to people and they're like, email doesn't work.
No,
If I'm
email,
trying to root cause
texting and
something.
calling, and yeah, it was just, and texting isn't HIPAA compliant. It was just a mess. So we went and I had a buddy that I went to college with, and we created in a low code environment a communication software. And that's where it all started. And that was just so that the communication requests to the offices didn't get lost.
Right.
That was it. Like we didn't want like the communication it tracked every conversation. So if I said, "Hey, I need the first name of this patient because it's definitely not, whatever, butterfly again." That's just
You're
their
still
nickname.
chasing them.
I need their legal first name. And then, the reply would be like, I'll reach out to the patient. And you could see that very next reply. I'll reach out to the patient and make sure that that's their legal first name. And then you could see that, and you know exactly where you're at in the communication, who's done it. And then there'd be a note that said, hey, I reached out to the patient, left a message, right? And then you could track that all the way through to the end and then submit the claim. And super basic, but that's where it all started. And then from there, it kind of grew into this accountability metric that we would say, hey, offices, you can't have more than, and at this time, I don't even remember what we were calling it, but it was like, you can't have more than, depending, it was 10% of the $100,000 of, so if they did $400,000, they couldn't have more than 4 communications in that software. Otherwise, they were behind. You'd hold them accountable to that. You've got 10, you need to get down to 4. So you need to get 6 done today, or we're going to have a
Oh,
conversation.
you mean open communications,
Open communications, yeah.
meaning still work to do. Let me jump in and let me see if I can show. Let's see here.
But we're not even getting to the most powerful part, which is this is just a buildup. But how does a grip on? So I'm going to answer that while you're bringing that up. How does a grip
Do.
on help? So that's how it all started. It's just communication. But where we ended up with it was, hey, we've got 15 requests out for perio charts on comprehensive exams. we need to make sure, and then we had to do a whole training around perio charting for comprehensive exams and set a standard. And comprehensive exams are the highest paid exam for insurance, and you can only do one a year. And so or one every 3 years, actually. So if you get a denial on that, then you just don't get paid a large portion of what you should be collecting from that visit. And so we were missing that income and had no idea before we had that software to say, like, you're doing a lot of requests for comprehensive exams simply because of something as basic as taking a perio chart.
Yeah, right.
So how does Agrippon help? You can categorize all of your misses and then go to reports and see what's your highest miss.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So this would be an example with Agrippon. Let's say you've been using it for a while. This dashboard shows you all the communication between two basic teams, the billing team and the office team. And we can go into these more in depth later, but I want to explore how I might manage a team and increase my revenue. All these communications are tagged with information that helps you identify particular problem areas. And so if you were to click on one, you'd see, for example, this tag has a coding issue or an inconsistency. These tags are customizable. And so I might go to reports, and I'd be really curious to see what kind of communication across all my offices over the last 3 months, maybe 12 months. We'll just go all year, and we'll just see what kind of information we have. And here we can say, looks like there's different tags for the offices, and it looks like a big hitter's in purple. It looks like AR questions is the big hitter here, or maybe X-rays. And then you could design your solution around the big hitters. Well, maybe I want to even know how much money is associated with these big hitters. And so I can go down here to request per tag, and X-rays is about $34,000 that we were leaving on the table, while, progress notes missing is worth $27,000. These are areas of concern that maybe I'll focus on. And maybe, I'm really interested in a particular office, and looks like Comfort Orthodontics is really struggling here, and maybe that's where I focus my efforts.
Yeah, it's the other thing. If you're running multiple offices, this can help you show which office is actually creating the most concerns, which is another thing that we worked on very heavily at when we first built this. Was some offices were doing 220 requests a month, 220 delayed payments on claims is what that is. And so you find out what those are, and you work to reduce the claims submitted, which will increase your revenue cycle speed. It's called I don't remember what it's called, but the amount of time it takes to turn over your outstanding. And we tracked that I don't track that in my current business, like how fast we turn over our AR, but we did there. And just by focusing on these submissions, we reduced it greatly. Which is something that
what you track will be what you improve.
Right.
And so it's not always a problem to track everything, right? And frankly, you can't. You have to focus. So,
right.
Okay, so I've got a surprise question.
Oh, good. Those are my favorite.
So this one's from Lorinda Billings.
Oh, my mother.
Otherwise known as Mom. Here's the question: why are you so awesome?
She sent that question in, huh?
She sent it in. She's like a fan. She's our only groupie.
That's funny. Well, hey, I don't really have an answer for that other than, I had a really good parental structure. So taking it back her way.
I think she'll be disappointed in that answer.
Yeah, I don't have another one. I don't know.
Well, thanks, Brad. We're going to have other guests here in the future, and we'll talk more, and we'll explore the business side of dental offices and all things DSO. And again, we're brought to you by Agrippon.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Get a Grip on Claims. If today's episode helped you rethink how your team handles billing, don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. For more tools, insights, and claim-saving strategies, head over to agrippon.com. Until next time, stay sharp, stay structured, and keep a grip on your claims.